All right, good evening. Glad you're here. Welcome back into Finnerty. I'm Rob Finnerty. And what we saw today at the United Nations in New York was not just one of the most important speeches we have ever heard from Donald Trump, but in a room full of people who do not like him, the president gave one of the most consequential speeches we have ever heard in a building that houses an institution that is in total decay. The United Nations. There was once a time after the Second World War when those words actually meant something. The UN. Those days are over. Donald Trump addressing the General Assembly for the first time in 6 years today. But before we go through why this speech was so different, just remember that none of these people ever thought they'd ever have to deal with Donald Trump again. But he is back, and they tried to stop him today. And I don't care what the excuse is after the fact from the United Nations. But the powers that be did not want Donald Trump to deliver this speech today. That's a fact. And when the leader of the free world entered the building, the escalator suddenly stopped working at the exact moment that he stepped on. So the president and the first lady walked up the broken escalator, which then miraculously started working again. I suppose that's the beautiful thing about escalators. They never actually break, they just become stairs. Minutes after that, Donald Trump began his speech, and somehow this happened.
I don't mind making this speech without a teleprompter, because the teleprompter is not working. I can only say that whoever's operating this teleprompter is in big trouble.
Boy, a lot's changed since Trump 1.0 to now. That was all done on purpose to try and upset the president, throw him off his game, maybe get it to the point where he doesn't deliver the speech. But after that, the speech began, and it was America first. With the First Lady present, clearly she was there to support her husband. Marco Rubio was also there with Steve Witkoff, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, after the S&P 500 set yet another record, a fourth straight day this week. The S&P 500 finishing at an all-time high. And all of this sent a message that America was back, but that America was through with this little international game where we pretend that fake problems are real problems and real problems like death and war and inflation are fake problems. The room was full, but there was something else that was noticeable. This room was silent for an hour as they listened to the President of the United States and really the biggest leader in the world. And Donald Trump made the case for America, something we never saw from Joe Biden because he was never America first.
But today, just 8 months into my administration, we are the hottest country anywhere in the world. Gasoline prices are down. Grocery prices are down. Mortgage rates are down. And inflation has been defeated. The only thing that's up is the stock market, which just hit a record high.
The president doing all that on purpose, addressing how much has changed here in just 8 months. The president pointing out what new leadership can mean for a country in a room filled with people who have driven their respective countries into the ground, all in the name of some crackpot ideas about globalism and climate change and illegal immigration.
For the last 4 months, and that's 4 months in a row, the number of illegal aliens admitted and entering our country has been zero. If you look back just a year ago, it was millions and millions of people pouring in from all over the world, just poured into our country with the ridiculous open border policy of the Biden administration. Illegal aliens are pouring into Europe. Nobody is ever, and nobody's doing anything to change it. And because they choose to be politically correct, they're doing just absolutely nothing about it.
Once again, he was saying this in a room full of people who absolutely hate the man. Donald Trump said about the United Nations what so many of us have felt for so long. In a room full of world leaders, he addressed what America has accomplished without the help of the United Nations.
In a period of just 7 months, I have ended 7 unendable wars. In all cases, they were raging with countless thousands of people being killed. This includes Cambodia and Thailand, Kosovo and Serbia, the Congo and Rwanda, Pakistan and India, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, and Armenia and Azerbaijan.
After that, the president called out the United Nations for offering no help. While all of this was going on, Donald Trump was ending wars. The UN was busy making sure that other countries were thinking about Palestine, not Israel, but Palestine.
The United Nations wasn't there for us. They weren't there. The UN has such tremendous potential. I've always said it, but it's not even coming close to living up to that potential. For the most part, at least for now, all they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war.
No president has ever done what you witnessed tonight, marginalize the United Nations at the United Nations for what it's become, and that's just a tired institution that is out of touch. At the United Nations, no one's done it quite like that today. Donald Trump did. The peace president also talked about nuclear weapons and Iran and making sure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon. It's important to note that the president said all of this in front of the Iranian delegation.
Today, many of Iran's former military commanders, in fact, I can say almost all of them, are no longer with us. They're dead. 7 American B-2 bombers dropped the 14 30,000-pound each bombs on Iran's key nuclear facilities. We did something that for 22 years people wanted to do. I immediately brokered an end to the 12-day war, as it's called, between Israel and Iran.
So after that, instead of cheers and applause for the brave Ukrainian president, we saw that constantly when Joe Biden was in office, Donald Trump addressed the other third rail of United Nations decorum, and that is bringing the bloody, gruesome war in Ukraine to an end.
It's not making Russia look good. It's making them look bad and killing anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 young soldiers, mostly soldiers, on both sides, every single week. This war would never have started if I were president. This was a war that should have never happened. It shows you what leadership is, what bad leadership can do to a country. Even NATO countries have not cut off much Russian energy and Russian energy products. Think of it, they're funding the war against themselves. Who the hell ever heard of that one?
Again, the president called out the Chinese delegation in front of the Chinese delegation. Those gentlemen there look thrilled. He called out the Russian delegation in front of the Russian delegation, who were doing something we've never seen before. I'm not sure if the Russians knew this is all recorded and available on television. They were recording Donald Trump's speech on their cell phones, like they were live streaming the entire thing back to the Kremlin. Vladimir Putin does speak fluent English, although not in Western interviews. He does that deliberately. Again, this was not a welcoming room. These people do not like Donald Trump. I don't think I saw anybody in the room who supports Donald Trump, and that's fine. Clearly, that does not bother the president. And they hate Donald Trump because he is against everything they've stood for at the United Nations for so long.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.